I want you to take a second and just look at the shirt or the jacket you're wearing right now.
Yeah, literally just grab a piece of the fabric between your fingers.
Right. Feel the texture, the weight of it. Because long before that specific garment was ever, sketched out on a tablet or sewn together on a factory floor, someone had to embark on this completely invisible, incredibly complex, high-stakes, global treasure hunt just to find that exact piece of material.
It really is a massive, relentless global operation. And I think the irony is that this intensely rigorous process, which is, the absolute foundation of the fashion industry, it remains almost entirely unseen by the person actually wearing the clothes.
Yeah, you just see the finished product hanging on a rack.
Exactly. You don't see the months of negotiation or the chemical engineering or the crazy supply chain gymnastics that actually got it there.
And if you really want to understand this invisible treasure hunt, you have to look at the data. We are diving into a comprehensive source document today, along with some really phenomenal intelligence compiled by Apparelizer.
Oh, Apparelizer is such a great resource for fashion professionals navigating all this.
It really is. And digging into this, the mission for our deep dive today is to demystify this invisible journey. Because textile sourcing isn't just, flipping through a catalog and pointing at a pretty color.
Oh, not even close. Sourcing is this highly volatile intersection where pure, unbridled creative vision just slams at high speed into the brutal reality of supply chain logistics and budgeting and, intense sustainability demands.
So the way I like to think about it, and tell me if this analogy tracks, is like casting a massive Hollywood movie.
Okay, I like where this is going.
Right. So a fashion designer can write an absolutely brilliant script. That's their sketch, their technical pack, their concept. But if they cast the wrong actor, if they choose a fabric that just does not understand the assignment, the entire production totally bombs.
Yeah, that's spot on. If your script calls for a rugged action star and you cast, I don't know, a dramatic theater actor, it just doesn't work.
Exactly. If the sketch calls for a rigid, structured silhouette and you cast this flimsy, lightweight rayon, the whole garment just collapses.
Which means casting the wrong fabric doesn't just result in a bad piece of clothing. I mean, it results in a massive financial liability.
Right.
If the garment doesn't move right on the body, if it chafes, if it loses its shape after 2 hours of walking around, it ultimately will not sell. It ends up marked down, or worse, in a landfill somewhere. So the stakes of this rigorous casting process literally dictate the survival of a brand.
We should probably define what this process actually entails at its core, because it's much more than just a transaction.
Yeah, it's not just buying.
Our sources define textile sourcing as the continuous looping process of identifying, evaluating, and purchasing fabrics.
A continuous loop. Yes, that's the key phrase.
Right. The scope is just massive.
Yeah.
First, brands are out there researching specialized fabric suppliers across the globe. Then they have to meticulously evaluate the quality, check the chemical composition, compare these tiny microfluctuations in pricing across different vendors.
And audit the environmental practices of those factories, too.
Yes, and that is before a single yard of fabric is even purchased.
It's exhausting just talking about it. And once a brand finally identifies the right material, they enter into these really intense negotiations to establish long-term supplier relationships. They have to map out incredibly complex logistics to get the raw material from a mill in one hemisphere to a factory floor in another.
Just to make sure the sewing machines never sit idle. Right?
Exactly. Timing is everything.
But let me ask you this, on behalf of everyone listening. If a brand creates an incredibly innovative, just visually stunning design, can a cheap fabric really ruin it entirely? Or does good design sort of mask bad materials?
Oh, a cheap fabric will ruin it 100% of the time. You cannot mask bad materials with good tailoring.
Wait, really? Not even with amazing construction?
No, because real-world wear will always expose the quality of the raw material. Quality dictates durability, comfort against the skin, how it holds dye over time. It is the absolute backbone of brand identity.
So it's basically the most direct physical manifestation of a brand's promise to you, the consumer.
Precisely. If a high-end luxury brand compromises on their sourcing, they instantly dilute the exclusivity that justifies their price point. And for eco-conscious brands, if they don't source verifiable, sustainable textiles, their core demographic will abandon them overnight.
Which brings up the fast fashion sector. We see them try to cheat this all the time, right?
Oh, constantly. Fast fashion brands often attempt to artificially mimic the fluid drape of a luxury textile by using these aggressive chemical treatments on really cheap synthetic base layers.
It looks high-end on the rack.
Right, they cheat the physics of the fabric. But
Yeah.
the second you take that garment home and run it through a standard wash cycle, those chemical treatments are stripped away.
And you're left with the stiff, cheap base material.
The illusion shatters. The silhouette is ruined. It's unwearable.
Okay, so knowing that the literal survival of the brand hinges on these materials, designers obviously aren't just, browsing a neighborhood craft store.
Yeah. Right. No Joanne fabrics for a global collection.
So where on earth do they actually go to find these magic fabrics?
Well, the traditional heavyweights are the international textile trade shows. We are talking massive, sprawling, almost city-like events.
The sources highlight some major players here, right? Like Premier Vision in Paris, Tex World.
Yep, Milano Unica in Italy and Intertextile Shanghai. These events gather thousands of fabric manufacturers, chemical engineers, and innovators under one roof.
Millions of square feet.
Millions. It's where the global fashion industry physically converges. You have teams of designers walking miles of aisles just to physically handle the fabrics, stretch them, hold them up to the light.
Okay, but I have to push back here.
Okay, go for it.
We live in a digital age. If I can just sit on my laptop in a design studio, log into a global online fabric marketplace, filter by exact fiber content, and have physical swatches overnighted to my desk, why are thousands of designers still spending small fortunes to fly to Shanghai or Milan?
Because you cannot download the drape of a fabric.
Oh, that's a good point.
Fashion is an inherently tactile medium. There is this concept in textiles known as the hand of the fabric. It encompasses how it feels, how it inherently falls, its weight, the tension, the way it catches the light when you bend it.
So a high-res photo just doesn't cut it.
No, a photograph or a digital spec sheet cannot communicate the microscopic resistance of a twill weave. You have to put your hands on it. You have to feel the difference between a fabric that flows and one that crunches.
Right.
And there's another huge factor: trust. The fashion supply chain is built on relationships. If a brand is about to wire hundreds of thousands of dollars to a supplier for a material that their entire seasonal revenue depends on, they need to look that person in the eye.
So those vital relationships are still overwhelmingly built face-to-face.
Over a table in Milan or Paris, yes. But having said that, many established brands do bypass the trade shows entirely and go straight to the fabric mills.
Right, cutting out the intermediaries.
Exactly. If a brand has the volume to justify it, working directly with the mill gives them an unprecedented level of control. It allows for custom fabric development.
Like engineering a proprietary textile from the yarn up.
Yes. Instead of buying off the shelf, a brand can tell the mill's engineers, look, we need a fabric with the breathability of linen, but the four-way stretch of spandex, and it has to be dyed this exact Pantone shade of navy.
That is wild.
And it ensures strict quality assurance while significantly reducing the markup from middlemen.
Even so, the digital revolution is definitely disrupting things. Online fabric marketplaces are totally transforming the day-to-day operations.
Oh, absolutely. They offer global supplier access, fast comparison shopping, easy sample ordering. It really democratizes the sourcing process, especially for emerging designers who just can't afford that flight to Premier Vision.
And we shouldn't overlook the local fabric markets either.
No, definitely not.
A lot of designers still hunt through regional warehouses for unique, limited edition hidden gems. It supports regional industries and drastically cuts down on transportation costs.
Which is huge for sustainability.
Right. But, okay, so once a designer finds a supplier, whether they shook hands in Shanghai or clicked add to cart online, they don't just buy the fabric and walk away.
Oh, no, that's just the preamble. Now the grueling evaluation process begins, and it is just fraught with logistical landmines.
The evaluation metrics are ruthless. Brands first look at fabric performance. They test durability, stretch, breathability, moisture management.
Wrinkle resistance. They measure tensile recovery, meaning if you stretch the knee of a pant, does it snap back perfectly or does it sag?
And then immediately they have to slam those high-performance metrics up against cost efficiency.
It is a constant tug of war, balancing premium quality with a very rigid budget.
And that budget is heavily dictated by what might be the most notorious logistical hurdle in the industry: MOQs, minimum order quantities.
MOQs are the invisible barrier to entry in the fashion world. A mill isn't going to turn on their massive industrial weaving machines just to produce 10 yards of fabric for some indie designer's capsule collection.
Right, they require a massive commitment,
Sometimes running into thousands of yards.
which is just a nightmare for small brands. I always relate it to bulk shopping. It's like, imagine you want to bake a single beautiful artisanal cake for a friend. You go to the supplier, but they say, we don't sell single bags of flour. We only sell flour by a 40-foot shipping container.
That is exactly what it feels like.
You are forced to buy a massive bulk quantity of raw material when you only need a fraction of it. For a small brand, that is an existential financial risk.
It ties up all their cash flow. And if the design doesn't sell, they are left holding a warehouse full of dead stock material. But even if you can afford the MOQ, you still have to navigate lead times.
The timing has to be flawless to avoid production delays.
Yes, because the supply chain is a domino effect. If a fabric shipment is delayed at a port for 2 weeks, the sewing machines stop. That pushes the entire production schedule back, which means the brand misses their delivery window to retail stores.
A 2-week delay at the mill could mean millions lost in seasonal sales.
It really highlights how fragile this system is. Brands are dealing with constant supply chain disruptions, rising material costs, global shipping delays, quality inconsistencies.
Plus, the difficulty of actually verifying ethical manufacturing and labor practices.
It's basically a giant game of multivariable chess. You negotiate a lower cost, but suddenly your lead time doubles. You find a fast supplier, but their ethical transparency is murky.
So how do they survive that minefield?
Diversification. Brands survive by diversifying their supplier networks and maintaining relentless, transparent communication with their sourcing partners.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit, because one of the hardest variables in that game of chess today is the consumer's demand for ethical, sustainable practices.
Right. We are no longer accepting vague greenwashing. Consumers demand responsibility.
And to solve the massive challenges of sustainability and supply chain waste, the industry is turning to cutting-edge science and tech. This is the green revolution.
It is, and sustainability is now a non-negotiable baseline. We have to look at the big four sustainable fabrics leading this charge.
Okay, let's break them down. First, organic cotton.
Organic cotton is huge because it reduces chemical pesticides and utilizes better farming practices, like crop rotation, to maintain soil health.
Then you have recycled polyester.
Right, which diverts plastic bottles from landfills. They shred them, melt them down, and spin them into durable performance yarn.
And hemp. Hemp is fascinating to me.
Hemp is incredible. It's durable, naturally biodegradable, and highly water efficient. It requires a fraction of the water that conventional cotton needs.
Wow. And finally, the cellulosic fibers, Textile and lyocell.
Yes, these are made from sustainably sourced wood pulp via eco-friendly manufacturing.
Now, the sources mentioned that Textile and lyocell are created using what they call closed-loop systems. But how does a massive industrial manufacturing process actually remain closed-loop? I mean, how do they stop the chemicals from escaping?
That's the brilliant part. In a true closed-loop system, the factory is engineered to recapture and recycle almost 100% of the chemical solvents used to dissolve the wood pulp.
Wait, 100%?
Almost 100%, yeah. The solvents are filtered, recovered, and pumped right back into the start of the line for the next batch. It's a continuous, sealed cycle that prevents toxic industrial waste from polluting local ecosystems.
That is amazing. So they are re-engineering the chemistry of the fabrics, but they're also using tech innovations to fundamentally fix the structural logistics of sourcing, right?
Oh, absolutely. Technology is revolutionizing procurement. We are seeing AI-powered fabric search, for instance.
How does that work?
An AI analyzes vast global databases of textile specs. A designer inputs complex parameters like specific UV resistance, elastane recovery, organic certification, and the AI instantly cross-references thousands of suppliers to find the exact match.
That